Yay.
Good afternoon or good morning, depending on your area here. Thank you for joining us on our live demo. We're doing things a little bit differently this time. We're not in the field. We're actually going to show you a bit more in-depth tutorial on creating flight plans for your mission. I also have Brian Sanders, the president of HSC, on board. You should be able to see him down in the corner right there. And
yes. Hello, everyone.
How you doing? And we'll also have Brian actually present a really interesting study that was performed by Bayer a little bit after my demonstration of the Agrosol ground station software. So if you don't already know, the Agrosol ground station software is a software that's used for all of our ag spraying drones. That's going to be our Helio model Ag 110, the Ag 116, and the Ag 122. So all three models use the same type of flight planning software, which you see here called Agrosol. So I'm going to run you through kind of a typical flight planning operation. So right here you can see I'm in my field, and we're going to start our flight planning operation. I'm going to show you two different types of operations. We'll do a polygon mission, which is an area spraying, and we'll also do a spot spraying mission. So I'll go ahead and start by creating a new customer by hitting the plus button here. We'll call this one demo. And as you can see, I've added it to my list. I'll go ahead and click my rectangle, which is my area spraying. And you can see as I click on the map, I'm able to add points within my area. You can add as many points as you need depending on the shape of the area. And as you can see, it's extremely easy to generate a polygon. Now, right now we're using Google Maps as our map. And that's typically our typical application. This is what we do. There are some other options for creating an area as well. This is probably the simplest and easiest method. However, you can also implement the use of a GPS tracker, which is included with all three of the models. And you can actually use the GPS tracker to set what we call flags within your area to help determine your polygon. That's really useful in the event that maybe the map isn't very accurate or it's changed, the area has changed since the map was created. You can also import external files. So if we go up to the top here in the little gear icon in your customer, you're able to import files right here. We can import shape files and KML files. As you can see, we can also export KML files and also export a Agrosol specific file, which actually maintains all of the flight parameters as well. So really, really straightforward and easy to use. Once the area is created, as you can see here, if we click on the area, I'm able to actually modify a lot of different parameters. So I'll quickly go through these parameters. We can add multiple sections to the area, which essentially allows us to split the area up. So if it's a very large area and I split it up into two sections, you can see I now have two separate sections within my area. This is really, really useful if you have a swarming operation. You can fly one section per drone, for example. Let's go ahead and click on that one more time. I'm also able to adjust my swath here, and you'll see it'll change in real time. The buffer is actually the distance from the perimeter of the area. And typically our buffer we'd like to set to about half the distance of the swath. We can also offset the start point, so you can move the start point anywhere along this path. The angle allows us to modify the direction of the flight plan. So we can rotate it. For example, let's try like 250 degrees. You can see, it's probably not the best angle, but you can see that it allows us to modify the angle. Let's go back to the default. And the software typically tries to create the most efficient pattern possible. The minimum RTL altitude is actually the minimum height that's safe for the aircraft to return home. So if you have any obstacles within your area, you typically want to set your minimum RTL height higher than any of those obstacles. Of course, we have our speed and finally our spray altitude here. The speed and the spray rate kind of correlate here. So we can set our spray rate here. This is our gallons per acre, and we can set it to our desired gallons per acre. There's a couple different modes here as well. You have fixed power and fixed flow rate mode, but typically in most spraying applications, we would run a dynamic flow rate mode. And what that means is the flow rate will dynamically adjust based on the speed of the aircraft so that the application is extremely consistent. And that's about it. You also have an option. Yeah, go ahead, Brian, if you have any questions.
Real quick, where your video is, I can't see. So is the dynamic option behind your video? Is that right?
Here, hold on. Let me show you here. That should adjust it down. Let me put myself down here instead.
There you go.
Sorry, guys. Perfect. So now you should be able to see all those different options.
The green button over there is how you would save it.
That's correct. So the green button right here is how you actually save it. And the beauty of this software is that, like I said, it allows you to easily export this file. So if I want to export this customer, I can just go to my gear button. I can click export file, and I can go ahead and export the file. And that means I can move it to another device if I need to, or I can just keep backup on an external hard drive or virtually. And I always have a backup of all of my customers. Also, there's
really good for enterprise level solution, right? Where you could have people could have their own device, but still be able to carry out the same flight plan.
Absolutely. And beyond that, there's also a cloud-based backup. You can see here, it's actually logged in with my name and my email. And this little cloud button allows me to back up my areas to my cloud account. So you don't even have to save it to your computer. You can actually save it to your cloud account, and you can even load specific customer data, select specific items. It's really, really handy and useful for an enterprise use. Exactly, Brian.
Awesome.
Great point.
Hey, we do have a question live from our YouTube channel. And Mark wants to know if there's no changes in the Google Maps to the actual field, how accurate is it to set the field boundaries? Like, are we talking inches, feet, or yards? How accurate is it?
So Google Maps in most areas is actually quite accurate. The downside to Google Maps is that it's not always up to date. It could be 6 months or a year or possibly more since the photograph was actually taken. So that's why you have the alternative options of importing an external file. So there's a lot of different ways that we can generate either a KML or a shapefile. One way that you can do that is to use another scouting aircraft, something like one of our Rtl Evo 2 platforms. A lot of our customers use those to actually map an area ahead of time and create a shapefile or a KML file that they can then import into Agrosol. And that's the beauty of that, is that file is going to be up to date and very accurate. Again, if the Google Maps for any reason is not accurate and it's a known issue, you can always use your handheld GPS tracker to walk your field and actually set boundaries using a real world GPS data. So there's quite a few different ways that you can accomplish that. That's a great question.
It's really, I'm glad Mark asked that. It's really important too, because we know we've got clients all over the world, and with former generations of spraying products that we've had, we really have been limited to where these can be used based on map quality data or accuracy, right? But with that handheld mapper, I forgot about that. That handheld mapper allows people anywhere, as long as there's GPS reception, right? As long as they've got good, access to the array, they could easily go out there and map that field without even having to do the scouting.
So. Exactly. And that's, we see that GPS tracker used a lot in countries where maybe the Google Maps data isn't very high quality or is very out of date. So it's a really handy device. And it just plugs right in.
Mark just asked back, he says, hey, can you map with the spray drone in advance to set the waypoints versus having to buy another drone? And the answer to that, Mark, is yeah. Our ag aircraft, the ag 110, 16, and 22 all come with standard a handheld GPS mapper. It's different than flying, but it's still super, super easy, and it's included. There's no extra cost for that.
That's right.
Really good question. All right, cool. Thanks,
Great.
Simon.
No problem. Yeah, let's, I think you guys kind of get the gist of the area application. Now we'll quickly do a spot spraying mission too. So if we go back to our customer demo here, and we click this little pin icon, it brings up a different option here. It allows us, oh, hang on a second, let me open it. There it is. It allows us to create a spot group. Now, our spot group is how we create our spot spraying mission. So you have a couple options, and right now, since I am indoors, I only have my manual spot spraying option, which essentially allows me to, just like I created my area map, click on the map to set my spots. But you do also have options to use a GPS tracker, and you can also import spots using, again, a KML file, for example. But if we select the manual spot option, you can see the software changes to manual spot mode, and it allows me to select points for my spot spraying. And this down arrow, by the way, is our landing location. We can actually set this landing location anywhere we like, or set it to the drone location. You can see I'm imitating a drone here with number 2 blinking, and I can set it at the drone, or I can set it at a separate location. So that's a feature I really like with this software, is that it doesn't force you to always land where you take off, which is a handy feature for efficiency purposes. But once we create our spot points, it's very simple to edit them. We can just select it. Let me exit spot mode, but I can select each point. So you can see I'm on spot group 1, and I can also see my various spots here on the left-hand side, and I can actually modify each spot. I can change the spray altitude for the spot. So for example, we can set this to 10 feet, and I can set my spray volume, which is my amount of gallons that I want to apply for each spot. So let's say I put half a gallon for each point. I also have a couple other options here, which is my ferry to field altitude, which is essentially the height at which the drone will fly from where it starts to the first point, and also the spot to spot altitude. So from spot 1 to 2 to 3, you can change the height along with the speed. And another thing that I don't think I showed earlier is that each one of the options, including the areas, there's a section here to add notes, and that is also exportable as well. So it's really handy. So you can put, for example, beware of a certain obstacle for the next user. It's really, really useful. And again, you just save it by clicking the checkbox. It's very simple. And again, guys, if you do have any other questions, feel free to post them in the questions box to your right on YouTube. And if for any reason you missed us live, just contact us at hsc-uav.com. You'll find our contact information there. We have a chat box and emails and phone numbers. So you'll find a way to contact us, and we'll definitely get back to you with any other questions. But and we're always looking for new and interesting questions and feedback from you guys. So please feel free to comment, and we'll be able to answer you right away. So again, the spot spraying method is pretty straightforward, quite easy. Same with the area.
Yeah, Simon, it's we've been, as a company, we've been engaged in working with a variety of spraying aircraft for years now, right? Longer. Correct. You might say longer than anyone else in the country. There might be someone longer, but and what I love about Agrosol from a usability standpoint is that it has, in the past, we've either had software that's so basic that it can't really do all the things that customers want us to do, or it can do all those things, but it's wildly complex and complicated to use.
That's right.
And Agrosol is like so simple. It reminds me of, like a lot of when smartphones first came out and they became very visually appealing and visually stimulating, right? It's like green means yes, red means no.
That's right.
And you can drag and drop, and it's very intuitive. And I also want, folks that are watching and listening to know, we obviously got trained on this software too. And we train people on this all the time, every time someone buys this. And sometimes people, when they're shopping, are going through training to really understand the feasibility of it. How easy is it to pick up? And, we've ended up adding a lot of other topics into our training class because the software training is so short now. Because people are like, no, I'm good. I don't need another question. And that's
it's
really
true.
remarkable.
It's very true. Yeah. And that's something that we've definitely noticed. I mean, coming from training on other systems to this, the software is by far, in terms of agricultural spraying drones, this is by far the best I've used. And I've used quite a few software systems. And for people that don't know, I also do a lot of the training for HSC as well. So I've had a lot of experience with all sorts of different software. And by far, this allows, not only is it, I think, the easiest to use, but it also allows the user the most flexibility in terms of use. So there's very few limitations as to what you can do in terms of swath and spray patterns. And it's just a lot more open compared to some other systems. The ability to back up all your customers and export them and save them offline is extremely useful. That's something that, oddly, a lot of systems don't have. And it's so important because really most of the work that's done with drone spraying systems is in the flight planning stage. Once the flight plan is created, flying the drone is literally a 2-button process. You arm the drone and you tell it to take off. That's all you have to do. So the flight planning is really the most labor-intensive part of the application. And the fact that this allows you to save it and secure it and back it up in so many different ways is, I think, just absolutely awesome for this type of software.
I also like there's some non-intrusive but really important safety features that are built in as well, right? Like when you're swarming, it will know that, hey, those are not compatible return altitudes because they're on a what's the word I'm looking for? They're on an impact collision course, right?
Right.
So Agrosol will automatically prevent that from happening, when it comes to the planning, which is really great. The other thing that I really like about this, Simon, is over our tenure, we've had a lot of systems where the software, the ground station, again, as you just mentioned, the most really paramount and the most labor-intensive part of operating and owning a spraying drone is the mission planning. And we've had systems that were really primarily designed and built in Asia, which is complicated in 2 ways. One, a lot of times it's really tailored for an Asian farmer's needs, which are generally not spot spraying and not swarming because fields are so much smaller there. But also, there's a lot of language variability, right? And you can get kind of hung up in this, like, what's a medicine cabinet? Like, well, that means a spray tank in English, but it's loosely translated.
That's very true, yeah.
I think that's one thing that we really love about Agrosol and our Helio product lineup is that, this is all 100% US based. So the development team, all the developers, all of them, 100% are based here in the United States. So customers have told us that they really like, that sense of comfort and confidence that, like, this is all American built. But also, if there is ever a question or when customers come to us with really, really ingenious ideas, we can just literally pick up the phone and talk to someone within 3 hours of a time zone of wherever we are, right? That's the extent. And that's just awesome for customers. And it gives us the ability to say yes a lot more to customer requests and also the ability to support people really, really, really quickly and with ease. So
absolutely, yeah. That's a great point, Ryan. And one more thing that I want to add on top of that is the Helio team. What I thought was so interesting about how they developed this is, although they're an amazing team of engineers, they actually come from an application background. So they've had boots on the ground doing this type of work. And this entire software suite was designed around being as efficient as possible. That's why you have the options, for example, of being able to land on the opposite side of the field and being able to back up easily all of your flight plans and sectioning your area so quickly and easily. And of course, the swarming is so straightforward with this software. And that all comes from their experience in the field at actually applying these products. And I think that's an invaluable source of knowledge for somebody that's actually got their hands directly into creating the software to be able to develop it based off of those goals that they found actually applying it in the field. So I thought that was something really interesting about their team.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that was one of the things when we were, comparing just what's the next product line that we want to bring in and be, distributors for. And that was one of the things that really stood out to myself and the rest of the leadership team here at HSC was like, wait, this system was designed by applicators. And that's something that no other manufacturer out there can say. And, customers have just loved it. They'd be like, oh my gosh, of course it does that. It's just really, really, really cool. Hey, Simon, real quick. Richard Forsyth from Peru says, I can assure that 100% that I think what you were saying is accurate. He's saying I can assure 100% that. Good to see you, Simon, and cheers from
Awesome.
yeah.
Good to see you, Richard.
That's great. Yeah,
awesome.
Thank you for Richard. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, thank you for commenting there.
Hey, Simon, can I steal the last couple minutes here to go over that super awesome research?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to for you to share that. So we'll go ahead and get your screen shared, and we'll switch you over to full screen.
Okay, so y'all, I'm about to share a really exciting research study that was done on spraying aircraft. Okay, you should be able to see my screen here in just a moment.
Yeah, you're full screen, Brian. We can see it.
Nice, awesome. Okay, so this study was done in Asia Pacific, that region. So you'll see a lot of reference to Asian culture and farmers and challenges and needs. But the data that they pulled is accurate and really crosses different territories. So I'm at our website right now. Now I'm going to go through this pretty quick just to keep us inside of the half hour that we promised you guys for this demo. But you can find it on our website, and I encourage you to pop over to hse-uav.com at your leisure and read through this. It's super fascinating. So when you're at the website, and I think you can see my mouse, yep, you're going to come to this top right corner here where it says blog, okay? In the dark blue bar, you're going to click on blog. And then it's this first thing here, research spraying drones reduce operator exposure by 100 times. Yep, that's the one. All right, so check it out. So when we go in, this will give you some background and a little bit of information. You can read that. And then I'm going to click on this picture right here to actually pull up the article, okay? I'm going to zoom in so y'all can see it nice and easily here. Simon, how's that look? Is that pretty good?
It looks pretty good on my end. Yeah, I can read it pretty clearly.
Sweet. Okay. I wonder if I can get rid of that bar. Yeah. All right, cool.
Nice.
Okay. So again, Bayer Agriculture, Bayer Crop Sciences, who created this. These are the folks that, the researchers that performed the study. And there's going to be parts that I'm going to skip through and you can read on your own because, again, I'm wanting to stay within our time frame that we've got here. But this was really what they were seeing, okay? We need to produce significantly more while protecting natural resources. The demand, they expect a 50% more food and feed and biofuel needed, 10 billion world population between now and 2050, and then 70% more meat in developing nations is needed. And then they're seeing, look, we're at 17% harvest loss year over year. And you can read the details of all of these things, of course. We've got 12 million hectares of agricultural land loss annually, 0.16 hectares of land for food per capita, down from 0.52, and even down from 0.19 in 2014. So they're like, okay, we gotta work harder, we gotta work smarter and not harder here. So this again is really focused on Asia Pacific, but it says land ownership likely to remain fragmented despite slow consolidation in some countries. Over here, this gives you a really good sense. North American, Central America, 117.8 hectares is the average US farms, 100 times larger than farms of Asian shareholders or smallholders. Gives you a little thing, Europe, South America, South Africa, Asia. Okay, so I'm going to keep going through this. And again, this is kind of the why behind this, again, is targeted really to Asia, but you'll see the benefits really cross over. This farmer said, if I don't spray, my crops will be destroyed by pests. So these are the things that they were finding were challenges they were out to solve, and they were checking out, okay, do spraying drones, also known as RPAS, solve that challenge? They're saying, look, it's really hard to walk through these fields. There's tremendous operator exposure, increase of labor cost, and aging out populations. It's very tough to walk in muddy fields with a heavy spray tank. It takes 12 hours per hectare for this work they're doing. So they're thinking, okay, what about RPAS or spraying drones? They're precise, efficient, and safe. Okay, drone application technology can drastically change the situation. Can we save application costs, reduce crop damage, optimize management? This is one of my favorite sections, is this part here. They're looking at ROI. And they're saying, spraying a field with the UAS, the whole field, about $2 an acre. This is US dollars. Spraying 10% of the field, like Simon was showing us with spot spraying, or any kind of precision spraying or is a quarter, 25 cents per acre, or versus a spray rig about $8 an acre, and then $8 an acre even if you're spot spraying, depending, right, on how you calculate that. This is Bayer's work. This is, I love, why drive 15 tons across the field to apply just ounces of product? Like, well, that's a good point. They're talking about expansion of niche products like micronutrients, plant growth regulators, pollination for hybrid production, and to increase crop uniformity. And of course, cover crop. You can have a seed spreader on these aircraft. Okay, now I'm going to skip through some of this just in the sense of time. They talk about regulations here, the application efficiency, 30 times more efficient versus manual. They saved on average 3% of the water. They found the treatment cost 50%, half of what it was in manual operation, and lower pesticide exposure. So the areas they went to work on here, okay, I'm going to scroll. Hope I don't make you dizzy over there. They were looking at these things: bioefficacy, okay, are efficacy levels as good as with conventional spraying? Operator safety, exposure, dietary safety like crop residues, and environmental safety, drift. Here's what they found. I'm going to keep scrolling here. Oh, I'm against the clock. So much pressure. Okay. Down here, we jump right into, first, they found an efficacy that 90% of the tested products are totally compatible with spraying drones, which is awesome. They found way more products are compatible than that are not. Okay. Here's just some of them that Bayer pointed to. All right. Now, here's the operator exposure. Okay, objective: are UAS spray applicators safe to the operator? Benchmarking backpack sprayer and drone application with the MARTI and MYS standards here. Okay, full body dosimeter tracer operator exposure study. Here he is spraying by backpack. Here he is with the remote control. First off, I want to be this guy. That looks way less. That looks like a lot easier of a job. Check it out. Here's what I really want you to get. The result: the exposure with the backpack sprayer is 100 times more than to the drone sprayer. 100 times. That's crazy. You can go through the rest of this to see it. I'm going to scroll down here and show you about our off-target drift. They have some models here that they showed. Maximum deviation. You can read through all this stuff. They found, in short, that in the actual operator safety, as we talked about, down here, this is consistent with our findings in the USDA research that was done. Spray drift is much reduced by good agriculture practice observing wind speed, flight height, speed, and nozzles. Okay, in short, spray drift is effectively mitigated on using the right type of nozzles and then having the actual mission setup being appropriate for the job at hand. Also talks about residues and the efficacy that they found. So really, really, really great study. You can read more about it again on our website. Again, less water, comparable efficacy, cheaper cost, more efficient, safer to operator, and labor savings. So
Brian,
anyway, that's what I wanted to share.
Sorry, I just want to jump in there. I just saw something on that particular, it said 30 times more efficient than manual spraying. I mean, that's pretty incredible. And
it really is.
Of course, we can definitely see that it's a lot safer as well, not just in terms of exposure, but for other methods beyond backpack spraying. If you're comparing this to, for example, other types of aerial spraying, this is definitely a safer option. Obviously, we don't have a person on board the aircraft, so it's safer all the way around. And I think it's pretty clear that in the coming years, we're going to start seeing more and more and more studies proving this, the safety and the efficiency and efficacy of spraying drones.
And Richard just added in, in his application, soil compaction avoidance is a huge thing for root growth promotion. And that's a good point. That study doesn't even really look into that, Richard, but you're absolutely spot on. We see in so many different cases, when you're against the clock, right, you've got to get this chem out, and the weather's just not cooperating with you. The weather's like, no, I'm doing what I'm doing, which is going to soak this field. And, what are you risking by getting your ground rig out there? Or even you go side by side, okay, you're breaking axles, or you still have the operator exposure. There's just so many places where a drone sprayer is a great addition to your product lineup that you have. It's just another tool in your toolbox. We'll probably see in our lifetime that, drones really getting up to scale to possibly totally replace manned aerial applicators and ground rigs. we're not really there right now. Closer as we get swarming technology, but just think about this as another tool in the toolbox. You know, difficult to reach, soil compaction concerns, terrain elevation concerns, you know, operator exposure. If there's a backpack anywhere in your operation, I don't think anyone's fighting to have you keep that backpack on board. I think people would be pretty happy to replace it at a fraction of the overall cost. Your ROI is pretty short on these, so that's really cool.
That's right.
I know I went a little over, Simon. I get
it's
so
okay.
excited.
We started a couple minutes late, so that's all right. But we'll go ahead and close it out here. I just wanted to let you guys know again, make sure to subscribe to our channel because that is how you get notified of our live streams. We do live lunch and learns every Tuesday at noon Eastern. We also do demos, flight demos and demos like this every month. You can check out our events calendar on our website, again, hsc-uav.com. You can also learn a lot more about our aircraft and the research that Brian just showed, along with a lot more on our website once more. So again, thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate all the comments, and we're going to look forward to seeing you next time. You guys have a great day and safe spring.
Have a really great weekend, and thanks again for your time. Everything Simon said, yes.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
Simon. We'll
Thanks,
see
Brian.
you.